Hello everyone, this is Yana Smakula for SimonsSTM.com. Welcome back for another Yippee for Yana video. In today's episode, I'm creating a masculine card using the Simon Says Stamp Big Birthday Cake stencil. All supplies I'm using for this project are listed and linked in the video description below. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Here, I already have a sheet of cardstock. This is Neenah Solar White, 80 pound. This is cut to 4¼ by 5½ inches, and I am going to trim it down later. I'm using one of the Waffle Flower grip mats. This is the original one, but there are new versions available now. And I'm starting to ink blend one of these stencil layers. Now, I don't want to ink blend the entire cake, as that is a little bit too big for the idea that I have in mind. I want to ink blend just the top tier of the cake and then add long, skinny candles on top. So we're going to do a little bit of altering today. I am using Best Ever Craft Tape from Spellbinders, the super wide version, to mask the parts of the stencil that I'm not going to use because, again, I am only ink blending that top layer. So I started with a seafoam ink and I ink blended the base cake layer with seafoam. Next, I'm using a smaller blending brush. I was using a large blending brush from Simon before, and now I'm using a smaller or a detail blending brush. And I'm ink blending surf ink on top. I also added a little bit of the yellow tape over there at the top. And this is basically just a little guide for me to help me align these stencil layers. You don't really need that guide there, but I don't know. It just felt helpful to me at the time. So I'm being very careful removing this second stencil layer, and I'm going to switch to the next layer. This particular stencil set is very unique and it's very clever. There are 5 layers, and these allow you to ink blend a big, beautiful cake. And you can make it into a birthday cake or, a wedding cake. It can be a masculine or a feminine cake, whichever kind of cake you want. So you have a lot of options there. So next I'm using the Ocean ink from Simon, and I'm ink blending the frosting on this layer. And I've again switched to the large blending brush. Like I said, this is a fabulous stencil. And by the way, there's also a set of coordinating dies available. So if you want to cut this out, you do have that option. And the dies, there are options with the dies too, because they allow you to cut separate layers and you can cut the candles separately, and many pieces can be cut separately, giving you more customization options. So again, fabulous stencil set, and if you want to do more with this stencil, you can also get the coordinating dies. I'm not really using the coordinating dies today. You will see me use a little die for the flame at the very end of this video, just because I wasn't particularly happy with how I ink blended the flame on the candles. So you'll see me do that. You'll see me use that, but really, I'm not really using the coordinating dies. This is almost a 1-layer card. Now I'm placing the 4th stencil layer, and this basically adds a little detail or a little shading to the frosting. And I'm going to ink blend that using gray ink. Ideally, I would want to ink blend this using even a darker teal color, but I don't have a darker teal color in my stash. So to create a shadow or to darken that teal that I already have there, I am going to use gray. So this is Charcoal by Simon Says Stamp, and again, using a detail brush to add this onto my panel. Using gray is a great option to stretch your inks because, again, we don't always have all the colors in the world, so we can use gray to add a little bit of darkness to that color. Okay, with the cake ink blended, it's time to work on the candles. There are candles included in this stencil set, but those were not the candles that I wanted to add to my cake. I wanted to have a long, skinny candle. So I looked through my stash trying to find something that I could use to create that candle, and I came across this stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. This is the Cotton Candy Wishes set. You can also use any skinny stripe. So here I have this super old set from Simon. This is the stripes set, and that set includes different width stripes. So you can use those, or, anything similar that you have in your stash. I actually experimented quite a lot with the Kindle creation. I thought about making a stencil. I tried using a candle die from another stamp set to create like a little mask and ink blend through that, but none of that really worked. And I find that just stamping a simple line like this worked the best. So here I used the Perfection ink from Simon Says Stamp, and I stamped 5 candles onto my little cake. You can definitely stamp more, or stamp less. Totally up to you. I felt like 5 was just the magic number for this particular card. Next, I'm once again using stencils to ink blend the flame above my candles. Here you will see me use different colors of ink, but in the end, I ink blended these using citrine and honey. Here I'm ink blending with different colors of ink, and in the end, I didn't quite like how these candles looked. I didn't like the colors of these, so I went back. I re-blended those, and I then used the coordinating die and cut them out and added them using glue onto my card. So really you can't see, it's barely noticeable. There's another layer. That being said, if you're not happy with your ink blending and if you have the coordinating dies, you can use those to kind of salvage your project. The flame has 2 layers, so I ink blended the first layer and now I'm moving on to the second layer. And again, this stencil is brilliant. It's that shading, that detail that makes it so unique, and I think it's so beautiful. And plus it allows you to make birthday cards very quickly and very easily. I'm doing solid ink blending here everywhere. I'm not doing any ombre ink blending or anything like that, just a solid layer of ink blending, and I love the way that looks. But you can do ombre ink blending. You can be very creative and very different with the type of ink blending that you do. So next I'm using a white Jelly Roll pen. I typically use Sakura pens, but I'm using this other pen from my stash to add some texture and detail to the candles. I'm adding some diagonal stripes and some little dots or circles just to add a little bit of interest and a little bit of texture to these candles because I don't want them to look all the same. With that done, it's time to stamp a sentiment. So the way I envisioned this card, I wanted to have a sentiment overlap the cake, and I found the perfect sentiment in the Cue the Confetti stamp set by Simon Says Stamp. I'm going to use this Make It Epic sentiment along with a little one that says it's your birthday. So the Make It Epic sentiment is just the perfect size to go over my cake. And I'm using my mini MISTI stamping tool and the Clair ink from Simon Says Stamp and Tsukineko, and I'm just stamping this directly over the cake. I love the black stamping over that blue or teal ink blending. It really makes it pop and it just ties everything together nicely. With that done, I'm adding that skinny strip sentiment and I'm stamping it along one of the candles. By the way, you could even use that particular sentiment or any skinny strip sentiment in place of a candle. So you just stamp a sentiment like that, add a flame on top, and that could totally look as a candle. Okay, next I have these little like confetti or detail or sparkle pieces, I don't know what to call them, from the set that I was just using, the Cotton Candy Wishes set. And I figured I wanted to add a little bit of that stamping over the candles. So I used the charcoal ink. It's the same one that I use for ink blending, and I stamped that over the candles, and I kind of like that look. It added a little bit of whimsy to this card. I'm using my paper trimmer and I'm trimming this panel to 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches because I will be foam mounting this onto an A2 card base, and I would really like to have a little bit of a border here. I'm using sea glass panel or sea glass A2 card base from Simon Says Stamp. Here I have added another panel, like a scrap panel from the back of my main panel. I used double-sided tape for that, and that made my main panel a little bit sturdier. And then I used foam adhesive squares and I popped this panel onto my card. Next, I added some splash dots just to add a little bit of embellishments here. And now, just when I thought that this card was done, I realized I didn't quite like how the flame looked. So like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I re-ink blended the candles or the flames. I cut the images out and now I'm using my embellishment wand, barely art glue, and I'm just placing those flames over the ink blended flames on my panel, and this is going to finish my card. So here's a look at the finished project created with the Simon Says Stamp Big Birthday Cake Stencil. I enjoyed having fun with this stencil. It's a brilliant set and I can't wait to use it again and make larger cakes for my cards. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. Love you guys, and I'll see you again next time.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.